still reigns over the March skies with 2 conjunctions, 3 glorious visible planets each morning, and the astronomical start of spring. Welcome everybody to Observing with Webb for March of 2020, where a high school astronomy teacher tells you what you're looking at, why it's so cool, and what you should check out later this month at night. So yeah, like I said, we've got some really cool planets. We've got 2 conjunctions. But before we get to that, let's talk about the schedule for the month. And let's start with the moon. When we're talking about the moon, we're looking at the first quarter moon is on the 2nd. That means it is visible until about midnight and the right half is lit up. The full moon is on the 9th. That means it's visible from sunset to sunrise. Not a good time for making any actual observations, but good time to check out the moon. The last quarter moon is on the 16th. That means you have until about midnight to have a moonless night. Then it comes up with the left half being lit. And then the new moon is on the 24th. So again, we have a month where the last 2 weeks are pretty much the best weeks to get out there to see some really dark stuff in the sky. Now, as far as the whole month goes, the first half is really not so much going on. You've got the daylight savings time begins on March 8th, and that's at 2 a.m. Good part for me, that means it's darker when I go into work because I can take pictures if I stop on the side of the road. However, for most of us astronomers, that means we need to stay up a bit later to actually get a good night sky. But, oh well, whatever. We'll talk about switching and stuff another time. And that brings us to the 17th, 18th, and 19th, where we have a beautiful lineup with Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, and the moon. Here's a trick to seeing this. Now, basically, you have to get up after 5:30 in the morning on any of these 3, 17th, 18th, or 19th, and basically first look for Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars, but then the moon is going to be joining the party as well. And so on the 17th, it's up and to the right. On the 18th, on the 18th, it's actually getting real close to Jupiter and Mars. They form a really nice triangle in the sky with Saturn off to the left. And then, if we zoom back out on the 19th, the moon is actually down and to the left of Saturn with Jupiter and Mars up there. Now, you notice they're getting kind of close. We're going to talk about that pretty soon. The 20th is... Well, first of all, it's the spring equinox. Now, technically, it's at 11:50 on the 19th. To me, that means the 20th is really the first day of spring. So keep that in mind, the 19th, 20th, first day of spring for March. But more importantly, you notice that Jupiter and Mars were getting close together. On March 20th is the conjunction of Jupiter and Mars. Now, of course, if you look here, they're not actually perfectly lined up, but you can see the surface, the clouds of Jupiter, and I don't know about the surface of Mars there, but you can get them they are within 1 degree of each other, which is really cool. You can get those in one binocular view, something like that. Okay? I'm going to come back with more information on that later, but just remember, the 20th is that conjunction. Okay. Also to write down on your calendar, the 27th to the 28th, we have a close encounter between the moon and Venus. So we have to go to the 27th and 28th, and we have to go to sunset. And look west, and you will see the moon with a nice thin crescent down here, and Venus up and to the right. And then on the 28th of March, the moon will actually get a little bit closer and to the left of Venus. Just gorgeous to look at, okay? Let's see, the 28th, they're only about 5 degrees apart, which is really nice, okay? Oh, now we got to switch back to the morning again and look to the east. And move to the 31st, and on that day you will see a conjunction between Saturn and Mars, again within 1 degree. I'm going to talk about that in more detail in a second here, because right now I want to transition to what planets can you see for the month and what does it look like.
Mercury, Venus,
So we've got two sets. We've got the sunset and the sunrise. So the sunset planet is Venus, and that's it. Basically, just look toward the west after sunset, watch a beautiful sunset, and Venus is going to be up here, and it's going to be the brightest object up there. There's something unique about it this month, though, in that on the 24th is when we reach maximum Venus. What I mean by that is it's going to be the highest it's going to be all year, and it's basically coming back down. So from here on out, Venus is going to get lower and lower in the sky, and I think toward the end of the school year is when it actually dips back below the horizon. But if you have a telescope or a pair of binoculars, you should be able to look and see that Venus is actually a half phase right about now. It shouldn't be moving that fast, but you should see about half of it lit up, which is kind of tough to see, but it's easy. It might help if you look at it when it's actually closer to dusk, so that there's not as much contrast between Venus and the sky. But yeah, check that out. I mean, did you know Venus went through phases, right? So throughout the night, we don't have any other planets. However, if we look to the east and look as the sun rises, we will notice some really cool things. Now, the main show in the mornings is the lineup of these three planets. So you can see Saturn down and to the left, Jupiter in the middle, and Mars up and to the right, basically after 5 a.m. any morning of the month. And what I would suggest is start by finding Jupiter, since that's the brightest point of light out there. Down and to the left, about a fist width for the entire month, will be Saturn. And up and to the right at the beginning of the month will be Mars. But watch what happens as we go through the month, okay? You'll notice that Mars starts creeping closer and closer to Jupiter. Now, I do see Mercury up there. You might be able to catch that, but I'm not convinced it's going to be easy to find, okay? But let's get back onto Mars and Jupiter and Saturn. And what you notice here, that's the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th. The 20th is when Jupiter and Mars are the closest together that they will be, less than 1 degree. It's a great conjunction. It's a good time. But wait, there's more. If you go further, like we had talked about, you notice that Mars actually keeps moving. Let me back this up a little bit. Okay. Mars keeps moving away from Jupiter now and toward Saturn. And then on the 31st is when Saturn and Mars will be close together as well. Less than 1 degree apart. You should be able to get the rings of Saturn and maybe Mars in that same view. It's just going to be gorgeous. Honestly, I think the morning planets are the highlight of this month, but that's me. So anyway, I do need to wrap this up, but I do want to say, you know what, now's probably a good time to catch those constellations that might be going away pretty soon. If you're heading out there after, I don't know, let's say after dinner, you can actually check out Orion, pretty much high in the sky there. Just find the belt stars with the almost rectangle around it. And of course, there's Orion. Then you follow the belt to the right, and you'll find Taurus the bull. And off to the right there is the Pleiades. Really cool small star cluster. Now, if you take the belt and then you go down to the left, you'll find Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, also part of Canis Major. And I don't know, let's say, maybe it's not after dinner. Let's say you're going out right before bed, just one last look at the sky. You're pretty much looking at, well, Gemini over here, and Leo is starting to get pretty high up in the sky as well. Leo, you're looking for the backward question mark with the right triangle to the left of that question mark. And if you're getting up in the morning, let's fast forward to about 5 in the morning, of course, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars. But another thing to start looking for, I would say find that Big Dipper, follow the arc of the handle. Follow the arc of the handle down to Arcturus, the brightest star in both days, and then speed on to Spica, the brightest star in Virgo, what I think looks more like a mermaid than anything else. And if you feel like glancing around Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars, you should be able to find the summer triangle popping up above them with Lyra, Cygnus, and Aquila, and Delphinus hanging out there as well. Maybe even find Hercules, that little keystone, and the Corona Borealis. Just great times to take a look at the constellations. So get up in the mornings during March and get out there. And with that, I'd like to wish you very clear, dark skies for the month of March.